Thanks, guys. If you all want to take one of these and pass it around, it just gives you something to write on and take some notes. Thank you guys for being here. My name is, as he said, Jonathan Perry, and I have been doing public speaking for 35 years for a living, and in the last few years I've been doing communication coaching. So what I want to share with you tonight can literally be used from simple one-on-one conversations to large groups of people. I have had the opportunity, of course, to speak to a lot of people one-on-one, and I've also had the opportunity to speak to as many as 14,000 at one time. So in that, you have a real diversity of opportunities, but the communication is the key point if you're going to be effective in doing whatever you want to do. Sales presentations, launching a business, entrepreneurship, relationships, all of these things require communication. So having said that, from our earliest childhood, from the earliest stages, our first initiative is to communicate. Now we all know that little girls, they will have a tendency to communicate with words. Little boys will have a tendency to communicate with sounds. Little girls are always trying to form words. Boys are making cars exploding and all that kind of stuff, you know. Nevertheless, the point is that there is a communication taking place. Many times, the last will and testament is our last point of communication. So from the time we're born until the time we die, the one constant is the power of communication. Now, communication is like a runner. A professional runner, a competition runner, has to find their stride. Every runner has a unique stride. It's like their DNA, their thumbprint on the idea of competition. That stride is determined by their ligaments, it is determined by their bone structure, and by their muscle makeup, which in turn is determined by genetics. They have to take what they've been given and then use that bone structure, muscle, and ligament to then develop their stride, which then sets them in a point of competition. Communication is much the same way. It's not just about talking. It's not just about having good body language, as they say. It's not about using words people don't know. It's not about sounding smart. It is about literally conveying from your mouth to their ears. Now, have you ever been in one of those moments where you felt like from the time you spoke it until somebody heard it, somebody grabbed it and twisted it? You've never been married. Because if you've ever been married, you say one thing and they hear another thing. If you've ever had a child, you say no, they think that means yes. You say yes, they think that means no. You get the point. What happens many times in our desire to communicate is that we do not communicate effectively because we are speaking different languages. Now, I'm not speaking about being a linguist, where you would have somebody speaking Spanish and somebody else speaking English, or where you would have somebody speaking a language that you don't understand as opposed to a language that you do understand. I think what's important to understand is that communication has to happen at a common level. There has to be a common level of communication. Now, I think some of you have maybe checked out on that idea, like, well, languages, I don't want to learn more languages. I can't even hardly speak the language I've got. I get it. I struggle too. I say seen instead of saw sometimes. I get it. But my wife is always faithful to correct me with those ideas and problems. So about 55% of your communication is body language. About 55% of what you say happens with what people see, not what people hear. The original word for conversation literally means lifestyle, or it means actions. So when we converse or when we have conversations, it is literally we are speaking more with what we do than what we say. I had a guy say one time, I can't hear what you're saying because of what I'm seeing. Does that make sense? Maybe you've heard it this way. People say, don't do what I do what I say. And we say that's the dumbest advice you could ever do. Because we are all followers when it comes to actions. So we react to actions. Body language is extremely important. And then we have another 35%, that is tonality, the tone you use with your voice. Have you ever heard one of those speakers that had that screechy record sound and the whole time they were talking you were like holding onto the arms of the chairs? Because their tonality was wrong. Or somebody that's always talking real soft and they're just trying to be really sweet, but you have no idea what they're talking about. Tonality is wrong. So that's about 35%. 10% of what you communicate, about 10% of what you communicate is literally the language you use and the words you use. Now, we can learn all of these. All of these are learned traits. Thankfully, like a runner, these are not genetic. You can literally learn body language. You can stand in front of a mirror and practice body language. You can literally learn tonality, raising your voice, lowering your voice, using your voice for emphasis and then backing off. And you can also learn how to use the right words at the right time to communicate what it is that you're trying to communicate. Now, I want to give you 4 pieces of communication that I think might be able to help you in styles of communication or in the psychology of communication. So as a certified life coach, communication coach, although I'm a certified life coach as well, but in a certified communication coach, these are the 4 quadrants that we would like to train people in to help them. Take your paper, and in the top left-hand corner, write analytical. Analytical. We've got some pens here. Thank you to our school teacher who always thinks of these things. Thank you so much. In the top right-hand corner, I want you to write visionary. Bottom right-hand corner, write connected. We'll go back and explain these. And then over here in the bottom left, we'll do methodical. Now, I want to walk through each one of these and kind of explain what they are. And then you can actually take tests for this kind of stuff online. But just from my explanation, I'll kind of see what language you speak. So if you look at the analytical, this is the logical, facts, details. This is kind of a numbers game right here. So if you're somebody who speaks in an analytical way, you're going to say, give me the facts. You know, I want the rational side of this. I want reasoning behind all of this. All right? That's the analytical side. The visionary side has to do with future, new ideas, big picture, risk. Visionary, 30,000 feet high, looking down, big picture kind of people. Visionary. Risk, people of risk. Down here we have the connected, and that's the emotion part. This is the team player. This is the sympathetic, very approachable. Connected people will probably hug you rather than shake your hand. If they shake your hand, they'll do a 2-hand handshake because there's a connection that's taking place. And then over here we have the methodical. These are people that are very process-oriented. They need an agenda. They want to see plans. They want to see step 1, step 2, step 3. I've given you a very brief 90-second explanation of these 4. Now, just from that little bit of information, how many of you would say, and we'll go over those again in just a minute, you're an analytical person? How many of you would say you need facts, you need logic, you need reason? Raise your hand. All right. That's about maybe 25% of us. How many would say you're visionary? You're 30,000 feet, you got the big picture, you're always talking big dreams, big ideas, and people are saying that's nuts. All right, good. And it is possible to speak 2 languages, one of them being predominant and one of them being less dominant. How many of you would say you're more the connected person, emotional team player, movies make you cry, kids make you laugh, puppy dogs stir your heart? Yeah, that's nothing wrong with that. Very effective leadership, very effective communication. And what about the methodical? Who wants the agenda? Give me 5 steps and I can get it done. Yeah. So here's what we have. We have 4 different languages being spoken in this room. If I'm making a presentation to you on a launch, an entrepreneurial launch, and I walk in the room and I'm the visionary guy, and I'm like, you're not going to believe this. This is the best thing since sliced bread. We are going to create a system that will literally impact this entire region. We're going to connect people. We're going to connect all kinds of ideas together. And I mean, this is huge. And all of the analytical, the methodical, and the connected people in the room are like, what in the world is this guy talking about? Right? Now, I make the same presentation, but I'm analytical. We have done great study. We have stacks and reams of studies and effects that is having on our community. 72% are dealing with this. 13% are dealing with this. 4% are dealing with this. This is a critical situation, and I have literally a book. Would you hand out the books? We've got 500 pages in each one of these because all of these are important details you're going to want to know. The visionary is like, get me out of the room before I kill somebody. Right? Huh? The connected is like, I have no idea. This is getting freaky and I'm not. Show me the steps. Just show me the steps. Huh? You walk in the room with a methodical and you're given the same presentation. And you go, step number 1, we're going to do A. And then step number 2, we're going to skip B and we're going to go to C, because we feel like that this is the appropriate steps we need to take. If you'll look at your agendas, you can very closely follow exactly what I'm talking about here. You see how we're missing 3/4 of our audience when we only learn to speak one language. So here's what I encourage people to do. I want to give you the simple step. Now, this is actually a 2-day seminar that I'm cramming into 12 minutes, so just work with me here. Okay? We have 2 days of interactive activities, of role-playing, of different ways to develop team building skills, all of that. But I'm just going to kind of crunch it in here. Here's what I would encourage you to do. If you're making a presentation of any kind in this kind of a situation, one-on-one, teams, take something from all 4 of these pieces and put it in your first 3 to 5 minutes. First 3 to 5 minutes, give them something analytical. Give them something visionary. Give them something methodical. And give them something connected. Now, my approach, because of my language, is I'm going to start with visionary. And then I'm going to go to analytical. And then I'm going to go to connected. And then I'm going to go to methodical. I'm going to cast the big vision. I'm going to tell them why we need to do this. I'm going to tell them how this is good for people, for puppies, for kitty cats, for whoever. And then I'm going to say, these are the steps we're going to take. Because I'm going to lead with my predominant, and I'm going to wrap up with my second most predominant language. See how that works? I'm going to lead where I'm most passionate. And then I'm going to wrap it up where I can flow naturally and it all starts to make sense. Now, how do you know the language they're speaking, and how do you know if you're hitting on their language button? Here's the key. Is if you make your initial presentation, the introduction to your conversation, any one of these, you have 75% chance of losing the entire conversation in the first 3 minutes. But if you'll take the first 3 to 5 minutes and include all 4 of these ideas, their question back to you will reveal their language. You do your 3 to 5 minutes. I just want to pause here. Do you have any questions at all before we go any farther? If they say, now I teach this to doctors. I coach doctors on communication. How many of you think you ever met a doctor that needed communication skills? Huh? Yeah, because doctors will have a tendency to get stuck right here. Analytical. Well, we looked at your numbers. Your blood pressure is this. Your heart rate's this. Your cancer cells are this. Your cells are this. Okay, we'll see you tomorrow. And 3/4 of the people that are sitting in that room are like, what just happened? I have no idea what he's talking about. Am I dying today? Their question will then reveal their language. So if their first question is, now wait, let's go back over those numbers again. Explain that a little more. Boom. You drop the rest of your, if it's a one-on-one, you drop the rest of your presentation and you focus totally on the analytical. See what I'm saying? Now you know their language. If it's connected, boom, you drop everything else and then you start talking about your family, their family. You start talking about things that are connected. If there's more than one person in the room, then you will take each individual question and say, thank you for that question. Let me go at it from this angle, and you answer in their language. Anybody else have a question? Listen closely. Is it a methodical question? What steps do we need to take? What's the next steps? Ah, that's your language. You're a methodical person. So then you walk through your steps. Before you leave the presentation, you can literally be speaking 4 communicative languages and literally impact an entire group of people in just 3 to 5 minutes of presentation and the next few minutes in questions and answers. So my time is just about up. But before I completely conclude and open up just a few minutes of Q&A, I want to tell you that in this little presentation, you now have an entire bag of tools to make your communication skills rise to a whole new level. And when you walk in to make any presentation, whether it's one-on-one, whether it's a husband and wife discussion, whether it's dealing with your children, or whether it's presenting to an entire group, you have the ability to influence, because influence is where the money is made. Thanks for letting me have your time.